Who am I? Wer bin ich? Und was hat Yoga damit zu tun? Herzlich willkommen, liebe YCBA-Freunde, zu unseren Kitchen Talks. Lasst mich die Speaker kurz vorstellen. Welcome everybody to our YCBA Kitchen Talks. Let me introduce our speaker, starting of course with Christiana Charalambous, body-mind centering teacher and yoga teacher. Michael J. Stewart, international yoga teacher, founder of Shantarira Yoga. And last but not least, Thomas Bessel, co-founder of YCBA, yoga teacher, trainer. And let's start. What do you have to say? Who am I? Who starts first?
Well, I'm going to start because I'm often in that same predicament. I don't think I really know. Thankfully, over the years, there are various things that I've encountered in yoga that allow me to see who that might be in that very moment. So I want to say that although we might practice yoga, we might know yoga, it's not a fixed point. So when we try and define who am I don't think it's fixed. It's a fluid experience, but the fluidity can be supported by the tools that we have in yoga.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, I would like to respond on that. I like the fluidity in your sentence, dear Michael.
Of course.
Because fluidity is an expression of being alive and floating between different characters, which I believe you assume or point out to. I agree with that. I agree that I am also, or I would like to say that I'm also many different characters. And sometimes if I don't use my personal tools of yoga or somatic experiencing, I get lost in the many different characters. And sometimes they fight with each other. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And the tools of yoga for sure help me to find out what is the important character for the moment, or which character can be.
So you would say you are not one character, or you are many things.
Yes.
But isn't this what people always suffer from? They have their roles and ask themselves beneath the roles, who am I? So isn't there a common some essence which is valid in every role? Thomas, ideas?
Yeah, I'm reflecting of what's in general the process of becoming this self, this what we call I. When we are small kids, I think it's the age maybe of 1.5 year-ish. There sometimes you find this small guys, they are screaming and you find them exactly in that process of, okay, that's me, and something is changing, and I like to get control over that, what comes inside me through the senses, and like it's not conscious, but it's that process to hold that to hold that together in a structure, what we call, or what we experiencing as this I, or this myself. And it is in general a form of we are going into resonance with something what we have as a structure inside. So the structure is building up through all that what comes inside through culture, experiencing, and that all, and that is building a structure. And when we say, okay, that's me, that's me, then we have a situation where it gets in resonance with that what build it up as a structure. And when we say, okay, that's not me, there's no resonance. And we have, of course, these different roles. We have a role as a parent, the role in our specific job, what we are doing, whatever comes, we have different roles, and we are sliding from role to role, and have some kind of identification with that, some kind of resonance with that specific pattern. So, and I think there's also one aspect what is more than a role, and that's called personality. And when you have a situation of multiple personalities in yourself, and you are switching to this personality and then to that without control, you only know one specific personality at one moment, but not all the other ones, and that's a difficulty. That's what we call that's unhealthy, and we like to get it in the same structure. So we like to get it in the functional order. So when I look to all this process, it seems natural to get some identification with something what is in a structure. And when we have a look to the yoga, then I also agree with the fluidity. Then we hammering a little bit at that structure, that it gets a little bit loosened, so that we can have a wider view, something of, okay, what is outside what we identify, what is outside of that, what we say, this is a role, or this is a name, or this is an expression from one of our senses. What is this? What is it, this mystic self? So that's a big topic in yoga. And then we can say, okay, we have practices to get in a shift of experience of ourselves. And my question is, which practice? Maybe that practice for this person, but another practice for another person. What does it depend on? So that's what I'm thinking about that. On what does it depend? What specific technique or what practice do we use?
I think this is something for Michael. He has some ideas about that.
I think Thomas just touched on a lot of very important points that are in yoga, and included within there, I think what he was touching on in the finality of his exposition was really what I think it's an important perspective to focus on, and I'll get to how we might do that. But like to strip away these various roles that we play in life: parent, teacher, student, mother, father, partner. All those roles, yes, okay. But the question beyond that and beneath that and within that is, well, who am I when those aren't there? I think that's what Thomas was touching on. And I think that's what you alluded to earlier. When you're not all those roles, then how do you identify yourself? Because if we don't have some basic foundation of who is playing the role, then we might get confused and think that, in fact, we are indeed only that role. When, in fact, we're a multitude of things, but when you're not being those things, what are you? So I think this is the question. This is really the deep question that we're looking to address. Is like, well, what am I when I'm not playing a role?
Yeah,
when I'm not playing a role, who do I get to be? So I think this is the really essential, profound question that yoga in general is asking. But I think what we're trying to discuss here is that as well. We can play a variety of roles, but if we don't have a foundation from which to step into a role, then we might get confused and think that the role is indeed the entirety of who I am. Mm. And the more we play that role, and if we don't have a solid foundation which we can reach into, then we might get confused. And that confusion is where the external world, the world of the senses, and Thomas just touched on that, the world of the senses can get very, very imbalanced. So we start to view ourselves from how we play ourselves in the external world without having a deep relationship or having any relationship. What might be the root of that? What can I move from into this? So that's why I think a variety of practices within yoga could be helpful and, in fact, necessary. I can go into practices now, but I think Christiana might have something to add to that, because it looks like we've gone into a layer. So we started somewhere, Thomas said something, we're now at another layer of this conversation. So maybe Christiana wants to jump in on this. What do you think, Christiana? We're at that layer of, well, what's beyond the roles that I'm so easily can slide into?
Well, I'm just at the moment. I'm reflecting on that scenario. How do I feel when I'm in that limited space? I'm while you were talking, I was kind of like thinking that person who's basically recognizing her or himself only with one of those different characters or roles. How might this person feel? How trapped is it? How actually limiting is the possibilities of maybe finding the relief in the outer world again and again through the wrong pattern. You know what I mean? So I try to sympathize with the person who feels exactly trapped in one in one role, identifying I am that and I can't really have other possibilities. So how can I reach that person? That's my question now. Again,
The thing is, like, how did you get there? I think that's
how we get there.
That's how we can start to peel away.
Okay, but how we get there, I think we are kind of more clear. Also, Thomas said it. It's in the time. If I see it from a somatic point of view, it's exactly the time between 1 and 3, 4, where we, as a very new being, start taking in the information from our outer world, from our surroundings, based on beliefs we learn on family, on bringing how we are brought up, and experiences in the very first years of life. So that's the whole scenery, is like how we get to who we are today. That's all. That's a sum of things. So I believe it starts very, very early when we were very little, and then it's depending on your path of life, what things, what is happening, and all that. You can't say it in general, but everybody has a different experience in life. But what we are now, when we are talking about adults sitting in that today now, and maybe being that person I referred to, it's a long experience of information from the outside, from surroundings, from society, from parents, from church, from whatever, who might implanted all that beliefs or identifications in us. And if we sit today and want to break that and want to find out what is the real me, the real self inside, I think we have to really throw away all that experiences and go back to the source. That's my somatic point of view, of course, because to find the base again, the basics.
Well, I think if you're going to use the term like somatic, we need to know what that means.
Well, somatic.
I know something about movement, but I can't be totally clear that I understand what you mean by that.
Well, when I refer to somatic, I refer to any work or encountering me as a being first through my physical being.
So your reference is, so what you're suggesting
Yes.
is in order,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. In order for someone to have some clear indication of themselves, they have to have some relationship with their physical beingness.
Yes, I believe that's always the entering point for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great.
And once you get there, you could somehow, with different techniques and practices, which also lead to yoga, of course, you can repattern identifications, beliefs, and unhealthy pattern who might got piled on top of each other through years, maybe eventually by going really back in time. First year, second year of experience, go on the floor, roll around, I'm back to that theme, and be the 1 year old where you start screaming, and before everything else is happening, you go to that point.
I just have a funny picture of people who work at a bank or somewhere deciding to get somatic and
Yes.
on the ground screaming.
Thank you. I wish that would be happening more. I think the world would be a much more funnier place.
Definitely. Normal isn't healthy.
Exactly.
Just
Yes.
normal. Yeah. Thomas, you nodded a few times your point of view to this.
Okay, basically, I think basically we can say when we are identified with ourselves something, that's a healthy thing. That if we can say, I have this something, what am I? That's healthy. And the other perspective is, as a human being, it's also natural to expand. And this it is what Christiana, when we are limiting ourselves to a specific role and make it tight and make it small, so then it's not in balance with that natural thing of expanding, and then comes this experience of, okay, I don't feel well. I feel punished or something like that. And when that frame is wide enough, and when it is okay for ourselves to experience in that frame different roles, or feeling nice and okay in that frame, that's also okay. Then we are functional for ourselves and hopefully for the environment. But when we have a deep interest, what is also generally the entry into the yoga, I say yoga world, a deep interest in that, what is now, who am I? So then it comes into a disbalance of that natural limitation and our interest in expanding and looking behind the scenes. And when we are guided in teachers, when we are guided in specific practices, we can reach levels or stages where we have a view of ourselves what we can't have in that limited way. But there's always a risk. I understand Michael in that way. Mm-hmm. There's a risk when we are in that levels and that stages. It needs something. It needs also structure to come back and integrate that experience, what we have in that levels. And it is for me also similar to that what the shamans are doing. They are going into the other world, acting there. Hopefully they acting in a balanced way, and then they are coming back to the physical world and to the normal world. So there are many shifts of these worlds, and there are specific practices and what they are doing to handle those situations. That's what I see inside that. And for me, it's really interesting. Is it depending, or are the practices depending on specific personalities, or is it in general good for all to practice those techniques?
I think we have a variety of practices, and you can only know if there's a benefit if you explore them. Because if we start out with an unknown person and we go, oh, that practice is for you, without actually allowing them to experience each of them and see what happens. Because I would say that regardless if the practice is what we might define as beneficial or not, everybody's going to get some effect from any practice that is done. Within yoga, I can say that I will make a blanket statement, which is not probably the sensible thing to do, but I'm not sensible. And in this case, I'm going to hold to everybody will get an experience no matter what, whether it's beneficial or not. That's for the mind to decide at a later point. But I think at first I would suggest that try a little physical practice, try a little breath practice, try a little mantra practice, try a little bit of mudra practice, try a little bit of meditation practice, and then see how that shakes you up. And when I say shakes you up, I really do mean that. Because what these practices do, and this is not a pretty picture, but this is what it does, really. It's like it shakes you. They're supposed to shake you, because what happens is when we get so accustomed to a specific role that we get that role defines us in such a specific way that the container of that role doesn't allow us to step outside into other possibilities of being. So it's very important that these practices shake you up. That's the point. So, I don't know what other people think about yoga. For me, it's always a shake-up. Like if you're really exploring deeply and what you're doing is you're shaking up the status quo. You're shaking up the known and looking into something that might not yet have been experienced. And that is not ever comfortable unless you get comfortable with the unknown. And what's the unknown? In this conversation, the unknown is like when I step out of the role of the father, the yoga teacher, the husband, when I step out of those roles, who am I? That's the tricky part here. So, just to touch back onto this, because both Christiana and Thomas suggested this, that we are roles that have been given to us over time, society, structures that exist in our growing up period, and they both pointed to very young ages. Okay, I agree with that, except don't we have a responsibility as we're evolving to step out, or do we continue to just be 3? I mean, I'm also 3, but I'm not only 3. I'm sorry, I was given some things as a 5-year-old. I can choose as a 60-year-old to go, well, that was given to me at 5, and I'm stuck inside there. So the difficult part is to go, yes, my religion that I was raised in said this. Now, when you go through life and have some experiences, is that actually still valid for you? That's the point. When you start to break apart things that have formulated you that are not your experiences, but ones that have been given to you. That's the work that yoga has the option to allow you to expand into.
Yeah, but there's also the incapacity of the people, because the structure is so strong. That's what I mean with that as a small guy. When you are 2 years old and you build it up some structure, it is really hardcore to get inside to you as a 50 years old and remove that structure to say, okay, there's an option to be more. Let's live this option. Yes, nice idea, but this structure, man, that is so strongly working, that's so holding on itself, that's not easily gets shaked up. So
exactly, and not easily,
and then not easily, and then when you shake up and you're not prepared for that, then comes the big bang.
Yes, and look. We can look at the universe. The universe came about because of a big bang. So sometimes the Big Bang is exactly what's needed. Because, if we keep hiding in, I'm 2 and I want to stay 2 forever, good luck.
No,
you're not 2.
That's not the people don't want to stay at 2 years as a 2 years old. That's what I mean. They don't want to stay as a 2 years old. They like to expand, but only in that what they are able to imagine. So it's like the spa. You are lying there and, okay, let's be more than 2 years old, and what's happening there in the spa is totally relaxed. It's okay. But the techniques are working different. And when you really get shaken, then you feel extremely unsecure. And that's what the issue is with the students. Nobody, or not nobody, but I think the most of the students, they are not prepared to go to that step. And if you are unprepared and come to that place, you are so shaky, you aren't functional. You cannot go out after that session and be functional as before, because everything is different, and you need to orientate yourself in that situations, and that's not it's not a fast thing. That needs time. I think that's the issue in that the techniques, they are shaky, but we have not enough time in our lifestyle to give that space to ourselves to really going one step forward. Because that's only that weekend, and then we have that weekend workshop, and Monday is the job as before. But when you are in a process, you have your own rhythm and it needs your own space and time for that really shake experiences. Yeah, that's what I mean, and not this. I like to stay as a 2 years old. There's an interest, but it needs also how can you create that design for that so that it's possible to go forward?
Christiana, you want to say something? Jump.
Yeah. It sounds like that student of yours you're referring to, Thomas. It's it would be. I mean, it's uncomfortable, and he needs a commitment, isn't it, to get that path?
Absolutely.
When I understand right. So what can we do as a teacher, as a friend, as somebody? How can we get that person not to? I totally understand, and I have those students and friends, and me myself also. I realize when I do not put enough commitment, I do not put enough briquettes in the fire, I will not get to that point where it can be shaky. I'm sometimes avoid those places to get too close and break those things. But I know, as through my experience, and we all know probably, when we go through that pathway, we eventually will get to the moment of change, transformation, whatever. But how can we guide the student who says, it's again weekend. Okay, I tried 2 classes. They're really difficult. It's too hard for me. My muscle ache. Maybe next time I do better watch the Netflix series. How do I get those people to stay committed and go through the uncomfortable path?
Well, I'll tell you what I do, and you guys all know me. I tell them, do you really like being 2? I'm sorry, I'm going to keep reusing that reference. I'm going to just say that because I'm directly engaging and going, okay, you know what it was till this point. Now, would you like to continue to return there, or do you want to go somewhere else? Like, that's a choice. And, the responsibility is on the teachers because they don't know. It's our responsibility to give them the container and to be attuned enough to know when do I push and when do I back off. Because I tell you what, certainly, like pushing all the time is not the right thing, and backing off all the time is not the right thing.
Thank you for saying that, because I would like to say something to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to say I totally agree with you. You don't want to stay with the 2-year-old, but I believe some students, they would be very, very well in the place of a 2-year once in a while to get rid of all the other,
Perfect.
to really get to loosen all and cut all this, oh no, I cannot be more this and that, and wants to be really a 2-year-old, but being and do all that screaming thing on the floor of a bank or whatever. But not everybody probably, but some people would have to go through that experience.
Yeah, perfect.
In my opinion.
Conscious choice, that's the thing.
Yeah. But then, of course,
I think
I agree with you.
There's a difference between what you're saying and what Thomas has suggested. Thomas has suggested that you might want to break out of there, but you just don't know how, and it's very challenging. Right. So if somebody is like the bank manager and decides to play the 2-year-old again so they can relive and recognize something, that's different than without recognizing that I still have that pattern that was given to me. That's a completely different scenario. One is an active participation, and one is just being what was given to me. Mm-hmm. So, like we're not speaking. You're not saying the same thing. I think it's really important to go, yes, it's great to be 2 again and fully go for it, because that's a choice in the process that I think eventually can lead to what Thomas is saying.
Yeah.
Like if we have the opportunity to actually go there again,
yes,
and not be, I'm the 50-year-old pretending to be 2. No, go ahead and really do that.
But that's what I say, Michael. Yeah.
Yes. Then we have the opportunity to come forward as the 50-year-old and go, okay, that was great, but I'm not that anymore. Yes. And maybe with that kind of processing, recognize all those things that I've begun without even consciously thinking about it, that identify as me, that came from the others, my environment, my society. Maybe then we have an opportunity to move forward into the 50-year-old that could be full of potential and expanding into a variety of different roles.
100% agree.
So there's a process. It's not an easy choice. And the hardest choice and the most challenging choice is, do you feel the need to change? If you don't, then this conversation, you should have turned this off a long time ago.
Yes, then you stay where you are. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it comes down, the individual has to make the choice. I am tired of these things, and whatever it takes, because look, we all know this. All of us have done things in our lives, and if it's important enough, I'm sorry, we make the time and we make the effort. Mm-hmm. Not somebody else. Somebody else doesn't make the time or the effort. We make the time, we make the effort, because it's valuable enough for us to step out of something that we don't even recognize as how I came to be this. Mm-hmm. So it's an individual choice, and it's an individual responsibility, hopefully with sensitive teachers and all the variety of tools in yoga, we can get there. Mm-hmm. I have no doubt about that, because I can only reflect it from students who've been with me a long time, my own experiences inside of yoga, and that can happen. But there has to be a commitment.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question to that. Yeah, what we are focused in this session is really a very internal situation. So when you have a look to the Western world of yoga, the entry point is absolutely the physical body through practicing asana. And what do you think? Shouldn't we focus more on this psychological aspects of our beings and working more on that?
Yeah, it's not separate from asana, though. That's the issue. Yeah. That's the issue with the modern. I'm sorry, I'm going to put this out there. If any yoga teachers out there, you can be pissed and write me personally. But the problem with the modern yoga teacher is that asana is not included in a self-reflective, psychological, spiritual experience. And if it is, then you have all of those processes going on in any one practice that we call yoga. Mm-hmm. Any one practice of yoga should be doing all the myriad of things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion.
My opinion.
Okay, but what happens is different. The majority of the people, they come into the studio or into the asana practice. They are focusing the body at first. So when you have a class like class for your spine, a spine class, a back class. That works very often, very good. Because it's specifically honed on that aspect of the spine and the physical body, and not more. And
but I don't get it. What is wrong about that? What's wrong about that as an entry point to, because sooner or later, if you stay with the spine, sorry that I interrupt you, but then would it eventually come to a full body experience?
You need to have an entry point. That's what I say. Yeah. The entry point is the physical body. Yeah. And then from there, of course, it is so broad. It's the majority of that what's happening. That's what I mean. Maybe that's my personal opinion, and I'm wrong in some way. But
I don't think anybody's personal opinion can be wrong. It's only a personal opinion.
It's just a personal opinion.
It can't be wrong. It's personal.
Yeah, it's my point of view. And then the question is, okay, it's good to know the physical body, but in the long term of the offering of yoga, so when coming to the point of yes, okay, in my opinion is use the entry of the physical body and offering more to come to the points of more subtle practices. Yeah, it's just like that. So the question is answered in myself. Sorry.
Yeah, but the thing is, again, as you said, Thomas, my opinion, your opinion, our opinion, but we're the ones leading the class. So when somebody walks in the room, we could be teaching, be teaching a very specific alignment class about a certain physical part of the body. But if you say this is an entry point, then it already opens the mind that there's more there. If you just leave it as, let's just work on the knees today, and it's the knee and the feet tomorrow and the hands. But if we as teachers, as I said, it's our responsibility. If we as teachers say, okay, we're looking at the spine today and there's a lot more to see. So our responsibility is to open. So maybe they don't know, well, what do you mean by more to see? I thought we just did a great class about the spine. Yeah, it's a great class about the spine, but I'm sorry, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. It's not even the tip. So our responsibility as teachers or people who are trying to get in some way penetrate humans, the reason they're in the room, they might not know it, but they're trying to get to themselves. People say, I came because my back hurts. Okay, well, let's get to the source of why your back hurts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So maybe it goes back to let's go back to the childhood. It's like those 5-year-old boys, I watch them all the time walking down the street. The ones who play soccer, the football in your world, if they kick with the right leg, they have a right foot turnout. And if they keep doing that, now their right leg is doing this and the left leg is doing this. Okay, now on a physical level, that's going to be an issue down the road. So we can take them back to 5. That's okay, because there's a developmental thing that as yoga teachers, our responsibility is to notice when they walk in the room, say, yep, okay, I see what happened there. Great, we're going to work on the spine today, but that's just like, we're about to go somewhere that might take you back to 5. So our responsibility is huge. And we should, this is what I say, if people want to be yoga teachers, then really consider it. You're a psychologist, you're a spiritualist, you're a psychic, you're everything. So this is not like, let me go get a piece of paper and teach yoga. That's my opinion. Right or wrong, it's my opinion. So if you want to teach yoga and you really want to look at the full value of what's in there, make it a life work. Because the people in front of you are important. Waha.
Yeah. Nice final talk, kind of nice conclusive talk. Christiana, Thomas, what would you add?
Yeah, okay. When you say so, it's our responsibility. Then we are in charge. So then we have also to say, what are the criteria of a so-called good yoga teacher?
Exactly.
So what should be in that responsibility? We have to care about specific things, and that's what we should talk about and figure out. Okay, what's really necessary? What is our way to this point where we are? What can we handle in a responsible way? And what is too much? So can we say, okay, then better in this aspect go to that teacher, something like that, to address that better and be really responsible. So, and this criteria, so I think we have to make that a little bit clearer, but it's too much for today. Because
I think that's
who am I?
I think that's a perfect transition for the next class, for the next talk.
What is a good yoga teacher?
Yes. What tools and how can we help through defining what is a good teacher? Maybe those people who ask for what do I need to change or to get to all that stuff what those people just said here. What do I need? Maybe that's a topic we can clear out a little bit more, so people feel touched or spoken to, and they say, oh, maybe that would be a good teaching for me. I think that could be the next topic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't have anything to add. I feel okay with everything what is said now for the moment.
So we are leaving this conversation with the question, what makes a yoga teacher a good yoga teacher, right? So let's look forward to our next talk, and thank you everybody for sharing so lively your opinions and thoughts. I mean, still, who am I? But let's go on with that. Goodbye, everybody.